My stepmom convinced my dad to cut off my college tuition after I defended my mom, so I took revenge that got them kicked out of their home. I, 19, male, got in a fight recently with my dad and stepmom, and I'm honestly not sure who's in the wrong. For a little background, my mom and dad divorced when I was 13 because my dad had an affair with my now stepmom. He was a teacher and she was his teaching assistant. The whole thing was messy because my mom found out from reading his emails, but he denied everything. It was like a year later when my mom followed my dad after school one day and saw him and his teaching assistant kiss in the car that she knew for sure he was cheating on her. My mom didn't just divorce him, she also called the school he worked at and got them both fired for inappropriate behavior. Everybody in our small town heard about it, and my dad and this other woman, we'll call her Shelby, moved away. They ended up getting married a couple of years later, so Shelby became my stepmom. I really sided with my mom in the whole thing though, and was hurt by my dad moving away. So I spent most of the year with my mom and only went to visit my dad over the summers growing up. I went off to college last year, and my dad has been paying for my tuition. When he quit teaching, he started a pretty successful business with Shelby, so they are doing well financially. Since my college isn't too far away, I tried to go to dinner at their house about once a month to show my appreciation and maintain a relationship with my dad. Last time I went to dinner was when everything blew up. I'm in a fraternity and Mom's weekend is coming up, so I mentioned how my mom would be visiting. Shelby got super offended and acted as if I have completely disrespected her for not inviting her, considering she and Dad are the ones paying for my school. I was honestly shocked she would take that stance since we barely have a relationship. I tried to be polite and tell her I think my mom was excited about visiting and that maybe Shelby could come next year. I thought this would keep the peace, but instead she responded, "If you're still in school next year." All I could think is WTF. I get good grades, and I'm very driven to get a degree, so I had no idea what she meant by that comment. My dad changed the subject at that point, and even though Shelby seemed ticked off the rest of the night, I chalked it up to her being tired and cranky. It was only when my school's business office called me a few days later that I realized she definitely was more than ticked off. The business office called to confirm my withdrawal from the program I'm currently attending. When I told them there must be a mistake, the lady let me know that someone had called and canceled my tuition check for the semester. I swear I saw red in that moment. I called my dad to see what the hell was going on, and he completely took Shelby's side and said that I had really hurt her feelings by not inviting her to Mom's weekend, and even had the nerve to say that Shelby had done much more for me in my life than my actual mom ever had. I have no idea how he can be so delusional. Paying for college is the only thing these two have ever done for me, but they seem to think they deserve all the credit in the world for it, even though my mom is the one who has raised me all by herself. It wasn't 5 minutes later that I got a text from Shelby that said, "I don't want you to have to quit school, but I do think I deserve an apology and an invitation to Mom's weekend, considering my important role in your life." I about spit out my drink before I could rein in my temper. I texted back, "Mom's weekend is for moms. You are not, and never will be, as important to me as my mom is. Keep your money." I have no idea if they planned on stopping tuition payments forever before that text, but now they certainly do. I got a call from my dad later that night that explained that Shelby believes they should cut off all financial help for me until I apologize, and he is so brainwashed by her that he agrees. Here's where things get a little out of hand. I was telling my girlfriend over the phone all about this happening and got emotional about how it felt like my dad and Shelby was screwing me over the same way they screwed over my mom. I had drank more than a few beers at this point to cope with the whole situation. My girlfriend said something about how it seems like they never have consequences for their actions. I decided it was time that changed. It was about 11:30 at night at this point, but I decided to Uber to their house and leave a special message. It's not my proudest moment, but Shelby and Dad may have woken up to "Best Mom Ever" spray painted on their garage, plus a few four-letter words sprinkled in on the side of the house. The next day, I woke up with a pounding headache and also about 15 missed calls from my dad. When I finally worked up the nerve to call him back, I realized I had messed up beyond what I even knew. It turns out the house they live in is actually owned by Shelby's sister, who lives in Arizona. The sister got a picture texted to her by the neighbors that morning and immediately called Shelby. I guess they got in a fight that ended with her telling Shelby and Dad to get out. Apparently, the sister has been planning to put the house up for sale, but now that's all going to be delayed while they deal with the spray-painted house. Dad says I'm lucky they're not pressing charges, and I know he's right, but he also mentioned on the phone how he and Shelby are going to have to stay in the CD motel now for the foreseeable future because the other hotels in town are booked, and I can't help but feel a little happy. I'm not sure if I should offer to come paint over the spray paint or leave him to deal with it. Atia? I decided to offer to clean up the spray paint on the condition that Shelby would not be there. I explained to my dad that what I did was wrong and I was sorry for the spray paint, not the mom's weekend thing, but it didn't mean that I could forgive Shelby for the whole situation. Honestly, I'm not sure I'll ever forgive my dad either, but I just didn't have it in me to open that can of worms and start another fight. He told me not to bother coming over to clean up. He's definitely taking Shelby's side in all this and says they won't be supporting me financially in any way going forward. I don't know how to interpret my dad's role in all this. I think he is mostly following her lead, but then again, if he really loves me, I feel like he would stand up for me. My mom thinks that he's probably going to change his mind, since money is pretty much the only thing that connected us before, but I don't know. I'm not holding my breath. I took out a loan and re-enrolled in the semester, so I'm back in college and making it work without my dad's support. My mom did it before, and I can do it too. She says she's proud of me. Ironically, I had to drop out of the fraternity because it's just too expensive for me now. So the mom's weekend that started all this became irrelevant anyway. But my mom came up anyway, and we had a really nice weekend, just the two of us. I heard Dad and Shelby are still living out of the motel. Sucks for them. My dad eventually called, and while he didn't really apologize, my mom was right, and he offered to start paying for my school again. I asked if Shelby was okay with this, and he said she didn't know, and it could stay between us. I fought long and hard about it and ultimately said no. I don't want a toxic relationship with my dad that hinges on financial support. If he wants to be in my life, he can step up and be there as a dad, not just try to use the money to erase his guilt. I guess I'm open to Shelby stepping up and being a real stepmom to me as well, but I doubt that'll happen. By the way, I feel like saying no to his offer was the first step in moving forward with my life as a mature adult and leaving some of the baggage from my childhood behind. Your NTA. You are honestly better off working your way through college or trying for scholarships than taking money from someone who will hold it over you or use or manipulate you. Sure, vandalism probably wasn't a good way to deal with your feelings, but I think you probably have a lot of pent-up emotions from your dad's affair, and this was just the final straw that sent you over the edge. Hopefully now you can move on with your life and find some healthier coping mechanisms, but no, dude. You're NTA. NTA. Sounds like your dad is getting his delayed karma for a number of bad decisions. Maybe he should have learned after his affair cost him his job that actions do have consequences, and you can't just treat your family like crap and expect nothing bad to happen. Best of luck in college. Loans really aren't the end of the world, and in this case, I think you're way better off with student loans than indebted to these jerks. It's hard, but it's probably for the best that all this happened. Definitely NTA. What I can't understand is why this lady would even want to go to mom's weekend with you if she's never shown an interest in being a part of your life. Some people just love the attention, I swear. I have a feeling she just wanted to be able to tell her friends she was going to visit your college or post the pictures online. I don't know this woman obviously, but it seems like she's way more concerned with appearing like she's a mom figure in your life than actually being one. I'll try to keep this brief. I'm a teacher, 11 years, but my first year at this school, and many teachers at this high school are veterans of 20+ years of teaching. I'd like to think I have a good relationship with my students because they joke with me and come to me with problems. One thing I noticed is that several times I had a student upset because they had a bad interaction with a teacher where they both got heated and words were said. I'd like to think I'm good at conflict resolution and building good dialogue, so I advise my students to send the teacher an email about the conversation, politely explaining what they feel went wrong, and asking to come up with better de-escalation strategies and ways to solve issues. I gave similar advice to students who felt a PE teacher was being too strict. When students said he won't read the emails, I told them that they could then request to meet with a counselor and show that the teacher was ignoring reasonable requests. Apparently, this advice caught on through the 9th grade, and now at least 2 teachers have gotten formal reprimands for not creating safe classroom environments, and a few other teachers are giving me dirty looks, I think. Because it came out in a meeting that Mr. C told the students to write emails. I feel like I was just teaching students how to advocate for themselves like adults. But some of my colleagues have said that some of the students are making up or exaggerating statements to get teachers in trouble. And I just created more paperwork and problems for the teachers, so ATA? There seems to be confusion as to what has happened. I didn't instruct students to spam email admin about teachers and pursue event data. The steps I laid out were email the teacher about an incident and ask to discuss how to avoid that in the future. Wait for a response. If you don't get a response or feel like you've been disregarded, ignored, escalate. This resolved about 90% of conflicts, and many of my colleagues appreciate productive communication with students. However, from the teachers who are less proactive, there are 2 general complaints. Kids are just complaining and need to toughen up. A student shouldn't be able to call a meeting and disrupt a teacher's day for small stuff. Now, it's not all the students or all the teachers, but so far, it's been a vocal 5 or so in a staff of A2, who have had to go to meetings. It's been 1 official reprimand for behavior and 2 written warnings that the teacher needs to change whatever they're doing. Not sure how many emails. NTA. As a former teacher myself, I was always open with advice on how students should advocate for themselves, and it always starts with creating a paper trail. However, you have to know that it is highly likely that some students are taking advantage of that and are creating exaggerated complaints. That's basically the definition of teenager. Personally, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Teachers who should be teaching will know how to handle it. Teachers who are new might have a hard time, and you may want to reach out to those teachers to let them know students are unhappy first. Teachers who should have retired will handle it badly because most of them know they should have retired, and what happens from there isn't your doing. Nah, but there could have been a step between emailing the teacher and seeing the guidance counselor. They probably felt ambushed due to not getting a heads up about the perceived conflict. They might not have handled the situation correctly in the first place, we don't know. But if you're in their shoes, you would like to have an opportunity to work it out with the student first, instead of having it go to admin because you allegedly don't check your email. 3 years ago, my partner and I became the guardians of my sister's daughter, Rose, then 19, who has significant intellectual and physical disabilities. We always wondered why she didn't have really any level of equipment she should have or access to the therapist she was more than eligible for when they were getting SSI for her. It was discovered through her father's criminal trial that he was stashing all the SSI payments he was getting for Rose into accounts meant for his other 2 daughters, Dahlia, then 22, and Lily, then 15. Due to the way that he was doing it, the most that can be done to recuperate this for Rose is for someone acting on Rose's behalf, i.e. us, to sue for the money in the accounts. We didn't want to rush to legal action. We tried talking to Dahlia. She was adamant that she wouldn't give Rose a dime and claimed her and Lily's money came from other family members, that we just saw an opportunity to be greedy and she would not be letting us take her and Lily's money away on a waste. We started consulting with lawyers after that. Lily's grandmother called us soon after. She doesn't speak English that well, but she was clearly in a panic. She begged us to not take Lily's college fund. She said that Lily works very hard in school and deserves a chance just like Dahlia had, but more than that Dahlia is dangerous, and that this is her only chance to keep Lily and herself distant from Dahlia's influence now that she's 18 and the grandmother has had to go in a nursing home. By the time we were done, we were both crying. I felt horrible. Lily would be applying to colleges now. She's ignorant of all this because both Dahlia and the grandmother admit they worked hard for her to know as little as possible. If we do this and win, she will be forced to drop out of college and go straight to living with Dahlia, something nobody wants. It would crash her future. I'm starting to doubt if this is the right thing to do. My partner reminded me that even though it is sad for Lily, this is not their money to be doing this with. Just because Dahlia got to use it doesn't mean that should just continue. This is Rose's money. Not only is it illegal what they're doing, Rose was forced to suffer for years with substandard care. Rose deserves to get that money back. He's right on that, but I'm just not sure if Dahlia did use it for her college. How much could actually even be in there to fight for? Maybe enough to pay for Lily's college, but after all the legal fees were taken out, would there even be that much to help Rose? It might be better to just leave it at this point. My partner is accusing me of giving up after one sob story and holding a stranger over our niece. I'm not. I'm just not sure it would be ruining Lily's life and may not even help Rose in the end. Is this really the right thing to do? NTA. It is a difficult situation, and sadly enough, there are no solutions where everyone is happy, but you are taking up care of Rose and protecting her, something that she apparently never had before. I think the main question is how far are you willing to go depending on the amount of money? It will isolate Rose forever from the rest of our family, which might already be the case, I'm not sure. Whatever option you pick, NTA, you have a big heart, NTA. First of all, Rose has been deprived of essentials for a period of time, having that money be given to her able-bodied sisters. The right thing to do is return what is rightfully for Rose and give her the support she will need in the future. The profit off of your disabled sister, even if it is for college, is disgusting. Rose will need assistance going forward, and having that money which was stolen from her would greatly benefit her. Lily has vast options in life to explore and finance in college. NTA, but it would be a huge legal challenge to get this money. Yes, the money belonged to Rose, but while she was in her father's care, he was free to use the money for her benefit. He presumably did that by caring for her, providing her with food, shelter, etc. You would have to prove that he misused the funds and would only be able to potentially claim amounts over and above what he actually did spend on her. Your legal case would be against him, not the other girls. And again, you'd have to prove that the money they have was actually directly tied to the SSI payments. If it's true that other family members also contributed to the accounts, then that would complicate things even more. There are likely issues with a statute of limitations for your jurisdiction. There is very little chance that you'd be able to win back anything that was already spent on Dahlia's education.